All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. The State of the Nation discussion begins right now. We'd like to hear your views. This is where we talk about all matters, politics, and everything in between. Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak to introduce my guests real quick. Dr. Kimani Wamatangi, Kiambu Senate and Majority Whip, is with us here in studio. Thank you for making time. Honorable Gladys Wanga, Women Representative for Homa Bay, is also here. Thank you for making time. Dr. Alfred Mutue is joining us online, and we are looking for Dr. Samson Cherargei. Oh, Cherargei is also there. He's joining us online as well. Amepatikana finally. It's good to see all of you. So listen, let's start off. We'll get into the daily papers in just a bit, but also a war of words between ODM leader Raila Odinga and Deputy President William Ruto continues, with the former Prime Minister accusing Ruto of hoodwinking Kenyans with his bottom-up economic approach. At the same time, Ruto, who spoke in Machakos, says Odinga and his troops owe Kenyans an apology for derailing President Kenyatta's second-term administration from the Big Four agenda. Listen.
On the third day of his tour of the coast, Raila Odinga was joined by a section of leaders from the Jubilee Party in an informal meeting dubbed Eid Baraza. Though he remains non-committal on whether he will contest for the presidency, Odinga maintains the deputy president is wrong on his approach to the politics of 2022. Ruto and Odinga still split on the fate of BBI-sponsored constitutional amendments, a matter that is due for judgment by the Court of Appeal on 20th of August.
Unapunguza gharama ya serikali kwa kuleta waziri mkuu na mawaziri ambao ni wabunge. Tumesema tunataka kupandisha gharama, kiasi ya pesa natoka kule juu ije mashinani kutoka 15% ifike 35%. Sasa hiyo ukitufananisha na mtu ambaye anataka kupatia vijana wheelbarrow, nani anasaidia vijana?
Kabla hawajaongea na sisi, waombe msamaha kwanza. Kwa sababu ile walituambia ni priority ya kubadilisha katiba ndio ipatikane mamlaka na ipatikane vyeo, ndio imeleta sisi mahali hapa tulipo sasa, kwamba madeni inarundika, vijana wanahangaika, kina mama wanahangaika, uchumi imeenda chini.
Just days after the Jubilee Party suffered defeat at the Kiambaa by-election in the hands of Ruto's new party UDA, National Assembly Majority Leader Amos Kimunya led a host of Jubilee leaders for a meeting with Raila before joining him at the event. UDA's John Njuguna Wanjiku won the poll with 50% of the vote, beating Jubilee's Kariri Njama with 510 votes.
Mimi sijawahi kuona vituko ambaye nimeona mwaka huu. Yani nyinyi muko radhi mumuangushe mtu wenu mwenyewe, alafu muwe wafuasi. Do you know what it takes? Do you know what it takes kujenga uongozi?
Musijali mambo ya Kiambaa. Kiambaa muliona ilikuwa kama 50-50. Na tulikuwa huko, tulienda wiki 3. Tukienda miezi 6, mambo Central itabadilika.
Slightly over a year to the general election, some of the ODM leaders are getting impatient with the naming of a presidential candidate.
We need to have our presidential candidate announced as soon as possible.
Kama sio Wycliffe Oparanya ni Hassan Joho. Kama si Hassan Joho ni Raila Amolo Odinga. Kama si Raila Amolo Odinga ni Hassan Joho.
But as the Jubilee leaders fought off perceived influence of Ruto in Mount Kenya, they are now offering the more than 5 million votes from the 10 counties of Mount Kenya to Odinga, as Joho warned the region against hasty decisions.
Na hasa empowerment imeandikwa kiwazi katika ile report ya BBI. Na kasema ile njia ya kufanya empowerment kabisa, na yule tu wanaelewa that proper empowerment are only the two principles who promoted BBI. Na tunaijua, lakini wamechukua vipengele kidogo BBI, wameanza kusema ati bottom up.
Na Central tunataka kama 40% ndio mambo ya kina Joho na baba waelewane huko. Sisi tuwajazie, tumalizane na hii mambo, wale watu wawe ndio opposition.
Deputy President William Ruto continued his onslaught against the opposition parties, this time in Machakos, Kalonzo Musyoka's political backyard.
Sasa wamejipata mahali pabaya. kwa sababu saa hizi wanahangaika huko kwa maboardroom wakitafuta sijui tuungane na nani, sijui tuungane na nani, sijui tupange namna gani. Mumesikia wakilalamika ati wasipojipanga hii watu ya wheelbarrow watahama na serikali.
Wacha tuongee ukweli. Kura ya Kitui, Makueni, Machakos 1.5 million. Sasa 1.5 million kuna pahali naweza enda? Sasa nyinyi tafadhali na muomba mkuwe watu werevu wa kupiga hesabu. Msikubali tena kukaa nje. Hata ukienda kwa stage ukute magari, unaigia ile gari iko karibu kujaa ama ile haina mtu.
Ruto was speaking at a meeting of traders within Machakos town constituency. Sam Gituko, Citizen TV.
Interesting times. Cherargei, why is this apology necessary?
Of course, what happened now, my brother, and our viewers, one thing to say is this. You remember when you were sitting the second year, you know very well that
all right, Cherargei, we seem to be having a challenge with your sound there. This is why I always insist that you need to come to studio, but we'll fix that and come to you in just a bit. And let me get to Honorable Wanga. Will you be apologizing?
Apologizing for what?
The Deputy President says you owe Kenyans an apology for having derailed the Big Four agenda.
No. Kenyans owe us congratulations for having brought back the government in line. When after the handshake, you have seen how much work has gone on. Trevor, I've heard the Deputy President talking about debt. In 2013, they found the debt levels at 1.7 trillion. By 2018, when the handshake was happening, the debt was at 6 trillion. Since the handshake, there's been an additional maybe one or 2 trillion debt. And those debts, the ones that have been acquired lately, have been to restructure the expensive commercial debts that were taken earlier. So the Deputy President cannot run away from what he did in Jubilee in the first time, and that's why the President ran away from that blackmail in his second term. And you have heard the President say that in his second term, he's had an opportunity to focus on work, on building every part of this country. Because there was a time that only some parts of the country were being built. You have heard what some UDAKU members have said here. They have said that the President is taking development to areas that did not even vote for him. What BPI and the handshake has done is to ensure that all Kenyans feel like they're part of Kenya, that they're part of the cake. So this apology that the Deputy President is talking about is hogwash. And it's total hogwash. Because he should apologize to Kenyans. He should apologize for Kenyans for the corruption that he meted on Kenyans in the last 5 or 6 years. What made the President even run away? He should apologize to Kenyans for, you know, the level of corruption, what was being unearthed after this parliament, after this current term, was huge. What the DCI was trying to do when they were bashing the DCI. You talk about Aror, you talk about Kimwere, you talk about all those mega corruption scandals. He presided over them. Right now, he's walking around talking about bottom-up. A guy who's the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, he's talking about handouts to Kenyans. He's been in government all this time. What did he do? And he thinks that Kenyans are blind. Kenyans have their eyes wide open. They know that if you come to us, just come to us and tell us, I'm sorry that I presided over corruption the last 7 years, I have seen the light, I will change. But not to come and say, come like a clean man peddling a handout agenda, because that is what the bottom-up is. It's essentially giving Kenyans handouts versus investing in policy and investing in Kenyans in a way that makes them develop themselves, like what is being proposed by Right Honorable Raila Odinga, spurring up growth in rural areas. giving Kenyan skills, industrializing, so that we can move to the next level.
Yeah.
Not setting up, because the bottom up I was told is putting 30 billion to give us handouts. That is not where Kenya wants to go. That is where we want to move away from.
Okay.
The culture of handouts, and I think the Deputy President really takes Kenyans for fools.
Okay. Cherargei, we back with you? All right, before we go to Cherargei, Ometangi.
Yes.
What do you think about this whole push and pull? Who should be apologizing to who?
Well, I don't know whether from the side where I sit there's any apology that we are supposed to be giving.
Yeah.
Well, I thought in the context that the Deputy President was speaking in,
Yeah.
we are the ones who are supposed to be apologized to. But anyway, I think, Trevor, looking at, if you are to conduct, a proper test as to what does the scorecard look like right now?
Yeah.
Would you ultimately judge that there is a failure in the first intent to deliver the 4 agenda to Kenyans? Would you sum it up as a failure? I think I would look at it differently, if you ask me. And because, of course, the Deputy President is running for office,
Yeah.
he would see and contextualize things in a different perspective. So would Raila Amolo Odinga also. He's aspiring for office. So definitely the perspective they would see and project is definitely likely to be different. But from a grounded point of view, you would ask yourself, would you call what has happened as of now a failure? And I would differ, if you ask me, because in which fronts then would you sum it up as a failure?
Yeah.
If you look at the work that's ongoing right now, all the development projects that had been initiated by government right from the year 2013, many of them are either completed, nearing completion, and others ongoing. If you look at the education center in industrialization, if you look at, other than probably what you just look at and say there is a halt or there was a stoppage of it, and that is in the community public low-cost housing. That's where you would say there's a go-slow, but at the end of the day, still a bit was done. Of course, the details of what brought about, the slowness of it.
Yeah.
But I think in all the other areas there has been substantial delivery, and because the bell has not been rung as of now, I think there's still adequate time. If you asked me, Trevor,
Yeah.
We are in July 2021. The bell rings in August 2022.
Yeah.
That's a whole 11 months from today. And that's a long time to a team and people who are committed to delivery of what they have promised to the people of this republic.
Okay.
And I think, unfortunately, because the judgment is delivered by politicians, if you went now down to probably those that are mandated directly to deliver,
Yeah.
the technocrats, the people in office,
Yeah.
what would be the best thing is to encourage those people. And I want to say this as a finalize. I don't think anybody amongst all of us as political leaders, the president himself, the deputy president, Raila Amolo Odinga, and all the other luminaries, if you like,
Yeah.
none of them can take, a sidestep and judge others. None. We all owe it to the people of this republic, because when the promises were made, we were together.
Okay.
When the course started running,
Yeah.
and we said this is what we are going to do, we were together. The differences that have occasioned the politics of today cannot and should not be the basis of judging whether we should deliver or we should not.
Okay.
The fact is that we have to deliver on what we promised.
All right. Dr. Mutua?
It's quite interesting. First of all, I want to say Bari Asubuhi to all our viewers from all over the country and all over the world as it is with Citizen. It is quite interesting. My first comment is that these leaders, all these leaders, are the top leaders of this country, need to apologize to Kenyans for their cannibalistic behavior of man eat man in the politics that they have put us through. Kenya has become a country where politics never ends. From the very beginning, after a general election, it is politics for the next seat. No wonder we are still a third world country, because all they care about is being elected and getting into that position and not necessarily delivering. Now, when you look at the political games that are going on in the country, they are competition. And I want to say, first of all, congratulations to UDA for their win in Kiambaa. We talked about people saying it was a small win, 50-50, but a win is a win. Nobody remembers who came second. So I want to congratulate them. The question I have is, when you listen to Commander, for example, Mheshimiwa Commander says that tukirudi hapa 6 months, Central itarudi. The question I have, Central ilienda wapi? Mlikuwa wapi wakati mliacha Central ikaenda kwa wengine? Now you're running back to reclaim it, which is something that I do believe that they can do and do it efficiently. Now, number 3, when I listen to Mheshimiwa Wanga, it makes a lot of sense, and I totally agree with her about who is to blame for all the problems that are there. I think it is hypocritical for Deputy President William Ruto to stand up and talk about the problems that ail this country as if he's an outsider of government. He was there in his first term and got re-elected when this country borrowed heavily. Majority of the borrowing that we have in this country was done when he was in the government, as he is in government, during the first time when we were doing everything with President Uhuru Kenyatta. The failure of creation of jobs lies with him and Uhuru Kenyatta. They are the ones running the show. The handshake came the other day, as Madam Wanga said. So you cannot start blaming all of a sudden all the problems to Uhuru Kenyatta and you're okay, even if you're running for office. Now, the tragedy is that Kenyans have become very simplistic, and we've allowed ourselves to be controlled by these politicians. So a politician comes and stands up and says, kuna shida hapa, watoto wanakufa na yeye ndio ameiba madawa ile amefanya watoto wakufe, na mnasema yeye ndio mkombozi. So as a people, we have to wake up and realize that we are being duped. Tunadanganywa na wanasiasa, kila wakati ni siasa. Yesterday, Raila Odinga was in the Coast Province, in the former Coast Province. He talked to people, they ate together, and they talked siasa. But I asked myself, when he left there, was the road made? Did the women in the market get more money? Did more jobs created as a result of his political meeting? When Ruto was in Machakos yesterday, giving handouts to traders and others, when he left Machakos, did it mean that the lives of Machakos people were better, were more electric connections better, were people much better off, were jobs given to young people? No, these are political rhetoric. So they are coming here to sell their agendas, and yet they come, wanawafurahisha, wanawapatia pesa, wanaenda, and the people remain the same way. And that is the tragedy of politics in Africa, that we are always poor and we are always being played by these politicians. So my question, the answer to the question is yes, all these leaders need to apologize for their cannibalistic behavior of pitting Kenyan against Kenyan while we are all suffering.
All right, Gerard Gay. I really wanted to have Gerard Gay on this conversation, but we'll bring him in as soon as he comes through. Let's now talk about Kiambaa and switch gears into the Kiambaa by-election. Wamatangi, did you fail the president there? Last time you were out in Kiambaa.
Yes.
What happened?
Trevor, remember, and I think that's something that that's escaping most of the people's minds when we speak about Kiambaa. Remember, we were running 2 by-elections at the same time. We had Kiambaa and we had Muguga. And I'm bemused that nobody seems to remember that we won the election in Muguga. Yes, we did. And besides the winning in Muguga, you like to call, and as you correctly described, the Kiambaa race a very close call, extremely close. And so I don't think that it is, of course, as Governor Mutua says, a win is a win. As I had said to my people of Kiambaa, because those are the people who also vote for me as the senator for Kiambu, I had said to them very clearly, Trevor, that whatever choice the people make when they cast their ballot is a choice that people must sit with. Because, we are a democracy, and once people have decided, they've decided. And that is the spirit with which we went into Kiambaa. And we did the campaigns we had to do, get people to understand, what is at stake at this time. And so we went to the ballot, and the results came. And Trevor, let me say this. as a leader in Kiambu County and one who gets elected in Kiambaa, my mind all the time has been that the best way to exit elections is to settle and agree with the verdict of the people. And that is what we did when we went to Kiambaa. But after the elections, Trevor, and this is evidence that, that is there, and I would want to take this opportunity actually to urge Chebukati, the IEBC chair, and the two sitting commissioners there, because we are about to go to the general election. It is extremely important at this time that they need to come out and clear the air about Kiambaa. By the way, Trevor, I want to be very clear on this as I discuss that issue, because I have no problem at all as the leader elected there, and I stand with my people whatever choice they would make. But the election results after one day, the numbers that started coming out that we saw in a record of what the IEBC released got me very worried. And in fact, even today, I am extremely worried. A few months to the general election, IEBC must come out clear. You know, Trevor, and I've got those numbers. I'll share with you here, and probably in your own time as journalists, so that we can help this country ensure that as we move on, we are certain that we are going to have elections that are completely above board. You know, some of the numbers that were released by IEBC, you can imagine in a polling station with 3 streams where people come out independently to cast their ballot. Yeah. They project numbers that people came, and for one candidate, all the 3 streams, that candidate gained 237 votes, 237, 237, in 3 different streams. Now, in another polling station, you find that they've projected that the same candidate got, in 3 streams, 2 streams got 151 votes, 151 votes. In a third one, got 141, 141, 141, in 3 streams. You know, and like I've said, I have those numbers here. And that is something that, you know, as much as we want to be, you know, fully accepting and democratic, yeah, you must ask yourself, now, what is not happening? Because it is highly unlikely, yeah, Trevor. And I was trying to work out, I did mathematics in school, and you remember when you are learning probabilities, yeah, the probability of people coming out in an election and going to cast their ballot independently in 3 different polling stations, and you find that it is a coincidence that there are 237 votes in 3 different streams, 158 in 2 different streams, 141 in the same polling station, 5 times repeated. And that is worrying.
So are you saying this vote was rigged?
You know, the candidate has been very clear, you know, who ran on Jubilee ticket, that he's going to go to court to seek redress. I have said this morning, yeah, that it is very troubling, very worrisome, yeah, when we are a few months to the general election and you see those kind of numbers being projected by IEBC. The people of Kiambaa had no mistake themselves. Okay. The women came out, the men came out, the young people came out, they went and cast their ballot to decide whom they want to be led by. Okay. And as I've said, if it was either the gentleman there, Kareli Njama, if it was Kawanjiko, if any of those people that the people of Kiambaa decide to lead them, yeah, that is okay. We have to settle with that. All right. But when those numbers come out, yeah, you must ask questions. Okay. And that is one thing that I would want to bring directly to the table of IEBC. They, yeah, must come out clearly. Yeah. They must show those numbers to the people of this republic. They must tell us that as we go to the general election, that, yeah, we can certainly say that they're going to conduct an election that is going to be above board, that there is nothing that they are doing or that's being done behind the eyes of Kenyans. And if they dispel those numbers, yeah, and indeed show, yeah, that this is really what happened, of course, no one has a problem, because the people decide.
Let me bring in Cherargei on this, and he's now joining us on phone. Cherargei, there are 2 issues here that we're talking about. Now we are on the Kiambaa aftermath, but let's backtrack a bit. Most of the panelists here were saying that it's the deputy president and the president who owe Kenyans an apology.
Thank you, Trevor, and my apologies for the technical hitch. One thing I want to say that I think I wouldn't want to say much, but it is out in the domain. One is that there is no day the Deputy President has abandoned or his duties, because I think my colleague, the Homa Bay representative, is talking about must the be selective. It needs in our argument, because one, you have to note that Executive Order number 1, 2018, and it is in the public domain that duties of the Deputy President was reallocated to another minister. And you know, as a Deputy President, you are a principal assistant of the President, and if the President does not assign you duties, you can't do much. And I think let us put that matter to rest. Secondly, the reason the Deputy President says the ODM brigade, and I've heard her talking in a manner to demean the UDA party, which is okay. I wouldn't want to go to an emotive reaction. But what I want to say is that the ODM brigade, of course they are known for legalism and other things of men in black, is that they are the ones who distracted the President. You remember, and we owe Kenyans, and they owe Kenyans an apology when President Uhuru Kenyatta sought a re-election in 2017. His biggest agenda was to finalize the promises he had made Kenya, and more so on the Big Four agenda, on the legacy projects that he was supposed to deliver on the issue of industrialization, food security, among others. And that was the commitment, that was the covenant, and that was the reason President Uhuru Kenyatta was elected for 2017. He was supposed to deliver on the Big Four agenda. But when ODM came in guise or in pretext of a handshake, of course, we always knew their handshake, they wanted power, and that is why they came with their new mantra, their new promises, by saying now, Trevor, that let us abandon the Big Four agenda, let us go to BBI, let us go to other irrelevancies that was not part of the covenant that President Uhuru Kenyatta did have with Kenyans. And that is the whole point, and therefore the Deputy President was right by saying they owe Kenyans apology, because after 4 years, we have been going to reggae rallies, we have been going to BBI, they have been bashing everybody right, left, and center, and abusing everybody. And I think that the point we are trying, the Deputy President was saying, is that Kenyans, when they went to polls, they knew who had won. They knew who had promised them Big Four agenda. Up to today, it has not been delivered. What we have been doing is just pushing on the Big Four agenda, using the handshake to craft 2022 succession politics. And I think for the issue of corruption, I wouldn't, as the President said at some point, that if you have any complaints, just visit the DCI. And I think if it is about corruption, the ODM, allegedly some of the ODM cheering squad of President Uhuru Kenyatta were mentioned in the coffee house. The President has accepted that every day, even before the close of this day, that Kenya is losing 2 billion Kenyans. So what we should be telling the nation is that how many people are being prosecuted, how many people have been facing corruption cases, how many people that the DPP and DCI are prosecuted. And I think we have had this conversation for very long. And therefore, just casting aspersion, saying corruption is there, it doesn't make sense. The question is, what is the agency that was tasked to prosecute these court cases are doing about corruption? And therefore, from where I sit, I think the former Prime Minister and his brigade and his steering squad of President Uhuru Kenyatta in government must come out strongly and apologize to Kenyans for misleading Kenyans to elect him to be the President of Kenya, saying he will deliver on the Big Four agenda. Therefore, it's like promising your children that in the evening you'll come with bread. But in the evening, you don't. You come with tomatoes or viazi for breakfast.
But Cherargei, you're running away from the argument, because the argument here is not so much that the Deputy President is the one who is corrupt. It is that he is part of the government that presided over corruption, and they've admitted on this. So it's not that he's not the one being accused directly. He's being accused because he's a leader. It's like yourself. You're a senator. Something goes wrong in Nandi, we expect you to take responsibility.
But the Deputy President is not the executive arm of government. That somebody who should make head role is President Uhuru Kenyatta. And you remember in 2014 or thereabout, was it 2015, when he came with the famous 100 list before the parliament, the President did mention and shame the people who were accused by the corruption. So at the end of the day, the buck stops to the President. Why would you want William Ruto to crack the whip and make heads roll about corruption, yet he is not the president. You wait until he becomes the president after 2022, then you can ask the same question.
Okay. Wanga?
Yeah,
That's Cherargei's response.
Yeah, I think I've heard what Cherargei has said.
Yeah.
What I want to say is that William Ruto cannot run away. He cannot pretend to Kenyans that he's not part of this Jubilee government since 2013. He cannot now shed off and say other people have responsibility for certain items. I have heard him, the deputy president, and I made this point earlier. I have heard him talking about debt building up.
Yeah.
Most of the debt, factually, Trevor, in 2013, the debt of this country was stood at 1.7 trillion. In 2018, it was 6.8 trillion. Was that about the handshake? Because the handshake happened on March 8th, 2018. Therefore, there was no handshake when the debt built from 1.7 trillion to 6.8 trillion. And that is a fact. So it doesn't matter what William Ruto says, that's the fact of the matter.
Okay.
There were promises that were made. There was the level of corruption that we saw in that season, the deputy president cannot run away from. I've had Cherargei talking about the functions were taken away in an executive order in 2018. But what we are saying is to come out right now and talk to Kenyans about an apology because of the because the Big Four did not proceed. In fact, I think the Big Four has done much better in this second term of the president than earlier. If you look at the UHC agenda, the president has been doing quite a bit in that area, even in terms of budgeting. If you look at affordable housing, if you look at the areas of industry, the other day we saw the president in I think it's Roraka or Ruiru somewhere, launching, manufacture of small firearms and other things. So the president has been proceeding. So for Cherargei to come here and tell us that, nothing is happening on the Big Four since the handshake, it's a lie.
Yeah.
It's a platform that the deputy president is putting forward. It's like standing on quicksand. Because if you now scrutinize, the basis on which this the deputy president is running, it's quicksand.
Okay.
It's trying to shed off the fact that he's in government even as we speak. It's a false basis.
Okay.
So I don't think that Cherargei can run away from that by throwing mud at ODM.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah. And then
maybe my sister can tell the nation why is it that when the government fails to deliver and there are problems with this government, they blame the deputy president, but they don't want to associate him with their successors of Jubilee.
Isn't it the same way
Surely.
that he doesn't want to take responsibility for the failures?
But it's not our job.
But that is why I'm just saying it is a paradox of all sorts, because what Gladys is trying to tell the nation is that when the president does not deliver, when the government has not delivered, they are sure that after the handshake of 2018, there would be much more that would be delivered. But as we talk today, they are complaining of the same issues to Kenyans. She's the chairperson of finance. And you remember I've been asking them that they are part of government now, that they chair a parliamentary committee that was being chaired by majority, and that the question was, why was they are the ones who push the government agenda in parliament? What are they doing about it instead of blaming somebody who is no longer part of the decision? Because technically, Trevor, ODM is part of government as we talk, because they are now part of the government agenda in parliament, where Gladys, she's a beneficiary of chairpersonship, of which was being chaired by Jubilee. So what has she done under the ODM, which is part of government? So if there are failures within government, then ODM must be blamed.
Okay. Wang, I'll give you a chance to respond to that, and then we move on to the Kiamba aftermath.
Yeah, so let me tell Cherargei this, and I think he probably knows that Parliament is a different arm of government. The fact that you chair a committee of Parliament does not make you part of. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
That Parliament, all of us, we are elected to oversight the executive. Therefore, if a committee sits and elect a specific individual, whether they are from the minority or from the majority, you know, that is why we removed the issue of, under the 2010 Constitution, the issue of opposition and government. And we went to minority and majority. Any single person can actually be elected to chair a committee without saying that that person is actually in government.
Yeah.
But let me say this. The reason that William Ruto is confused is because he wants to have his cake and eat it. Listen, he wants to bash, as you saw he was doing in Machakos, the president, who is his boss. He wants to bash him and say he's doing nothing. But if you tell him, if you no longer have confidence in this government, why don't you resign? So that even when you're bashing from a point of view that people know you left the government on principle. But he doesn't want to do that. He wants to remain enjoying government resources and using those government resources to bash the very government in which he's sitting in. Let me tell you, Trevor, and this is all hypocrisy. You know, I saw the deputy president in Machakos yesterday talking to them that, you know, now we want a national party where everyone is part of. Do you know that between 2013 and 2018, the URP wing, which is William Ruto's wing, had 50% of government? When they made appointments, it is actually the president who made appointments from the rest of Kenya. The deputy president made appointments from just one place. And you know, now we are being told, and this is part of the hoodwinking. Now we are being told we want a party that is part of the whole Kenya and so on and so forth. These are people, I mean, who do not have the moral authority to speak to Kenyans about unity, and that is why they do not understand the handshake. And they do not understand the BBI. Because for them, it is always you versus us. If you have 50% of government and you use it to just, you know, take just one part of the country and leave the rest of the country for the president to appoint everybody else from the rest of the country, I do not expect you to understand what we are talking about when we say BBI, okay, when we say bring the whole country together, right, when we say a united Kenya. Because for you, it will always be, let this community be against this one, let this one be against the other one. William Ruto cannot run away from Jubilee. If he wants to do that, let him resign. If he doesn't resign, let him support the president and the president's agenda and the president implementing the Big Four agenda.
All right. I have to take a quick break. I really have to take a quick break.
Just before you exit that agenda, yes, on whether there's delivery or not on the Big Four. Yeah. I think, fairly speaking, and it is important to remind Kenyans, you know, what was the Big Four agenda about? I mean, it was about food security. It was about housing, you know, universal housing, you know, low-cost housing, and then universal health care, yeah, and job creation. And you can't have a proper contextualized discussion on universal health care post-COVID-19 or just during COVID-19 pandemic, yeah, in the world. You can't speak about robust job creation within the corona pandemic. You cannot talk about you know, food security, adequate food security at that particular time. And I think if we had a rational discussion, devoid of politics, and that's why I said, you know, the problem we have is because the commentaries, yeah, are political interested parties. You find that it is very rare that you'd have a proper debate about, yeah, it. But I think that would be a very lopsided discussion to have, having gone through what we've gone through, yeah, as a country and the world. What I would be saying is, I think the best approach, be it for William Ruto as a deputy president and as an aspirant, in 2022, be it from Raila Odinga or anyone else, putting their voice to where are we? I think the best way to place that debate is how do we deal with where we are, amidst the problems that we have, post-COVID-19, and see then how much of that promise or those promises are we able to deliver within the remaining time.
Okay.
I believe that that's the only sober debate we can have.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I will take a quick break now. When we come back, we continue with the Kiamba aftermath. Matangi has already spoken about it. We'll come to Governor Mutua and then hear what Cherargei has to say. After that bruising battle there, it was almost a 50-50. But UDA took the day. We're back in just a bit.